The clock showed 2:47 a.m. when he heard the soft knock on his door. At first, he thought he was dreaming. Who knocks on someone's door in the middle of the night? He lay there in the darkness, his heart beating a little faster, wondering if he'd imagined it. Then it came again. Knock, knock, knock. Softer this time, almost hesitant. He got up from his bed and walked toward the door, his mind running through possibilities. Maybe it was his roommate who'd forgotten his keys. Maybe someone had the wrong apartment. He wasn't sure what to expect when he opened that door. But it certainly wasn't her. Lisa stood in the hallway, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She was wearing a jacket over her nightclothes, and she looked completely exhausted. They'd been friends for about 6 months now, ever since they'd met at the gym in their apartment complex. They'd chat sometimes, grab coffee occasionally, but they weren't close. Not really. "I'm so sorry," she said immediately, her voice shaking. "I didn't know where else to go." "Mander." He stood there for a moment, trying to process what was happening. Then he noticed she was trembling, and whatever confusion he felt disappeared. "Come in," he said, stepping aside. She walked into his small apartment and just stood there in the middle of the room, looking lost. He'd never seen her like this before. Usually, she was confident, always smiling, the kind of person who lit up a room. But right now, she looked completely broken. "Do you want some water? Tea?" he asked, not really knowing what else to say. She nodded, and he went to the kitchen to make some chamomile tea. His hands were shaking a little too. This was strange, unexpected, and he had no idea what was going on. When he came back with 2 cups, she was sitting on the edge of his couch, staring at the floor. "I had a fight with Tom," she said quietly, referring to her boyfriend. "A really bad one." He sat down in the chair across from her, giving her space. "Do you want to talk about it?" She wrapped her hands around the warm cup and took a deep breath. "We've been together for 2 years. Everyone thinks we're perfect together. Even I thought we were perfect together." She paused, and a tear rolled down her cheek. "But lately, things have been different. He gets angry over small things. He doesn't like when I go out with friends. Tonight, I mentioned that I might take that job offer in the city, and he just exploded." He listened quietly, not interrupting. "Sometimes, people just need someone to listen. He said I was selfish, that I only think about myself. That if I really loved him, I wouldn't even consider leaving." Her voice cracked. Then he said, "Maybe we should just end things." And I ran. I just grabbed my jacket and ran out of the apartment. "Where is he now?" he asked carefully. "Still at his place, I guess. I've been walking around for an hour. I didn't want to go back. But I didn't want to go to my apartment either because it's too close to his. I saw your light was still on. And I'm sorry. This is so weird. I shouldn't have come here." "No, it's okay," he said, and he meant it. "You can stay as long as you need." They talked for a while. She told him about how Tom had slowly become more controlling over the past few months, how he'd check her phone, question where she'd been, make comments about what she wore, things she'd been ignoring or making excuses for. But tonight had shown her something she couldn't ignore anymore. Around 4 in the morning, exhaustion finally caught up with her. Her eyes kept closing as she spoke, and she'd jerk awake, apologizing. "You should sleep," he said. "Take the bed. I'll sleep out here on the couch." She protested at first, but she was too tired to argue much. He gave her a clean t-shirt to sleep in and grabbed a blanket for himself. As he was setting up his makeshift bed on the couch, she called out from the bedroom, "Thank you." "Really? You didn't have to do this. What are friends for?" he said, though a part of him wondered if they really were friends, or just friendly acquaintances. Either way, he couldn't have turned her away. He lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. His mind kept going over everything she'd said. He'd met Tom a few times, and the guy had always seemed fine, normal. But he knew that people could be different behind closed doors. The thought made him uncomfortable. Around 5:30, he heard movement from the bedroom. Then the door opened quietly, and Lisa emerged, still wearing his t-shirt. She looked small and vulnerable in a way that made his heart ache. "Can't sleep?" he asked softly. She shook her head. "Every time I close my eyes, I keep replaying the fight. His face when he was yelling. I've never seen him like that before." Without thinking too much about it, he patted the space next to him on the couch. "Sit. We can watch something mindless until the sun comes up." She sat down, pulling her knees to her chest. He turned on the TV and found some old comedy show. Something light that didn't require thinking. They sat there in comfortable silence, and slowly, she began to relax. As the sky started to lighten outside, she finally spoke again. "I think I need to end things with him. I've known it for a while, but I was too scared to admit it." "That's a big decision," he said carefully. "I know. But staying with him because I'm scared to leave isn't a good reason to stay, is it?" He looked at her, seeing the strength starting to return to her eyes. "No, it's not. The morning was coming. And with it, decisions would need to be made. But for now," they sat together, two people finding unexpected comfort in each other's company. "Sometimes life puts you in strange situations," he thought. "Sometimes the person you barely know becomes exactly who you need in a moment of crisis." When the sun finally rose completely, the reality of the situation started to settle in. Lisa's phone had been buzzing constantly throughout the night, but she'd kept it on silent. Now, in the morning light, she finally looked at it. Her face went pale as she scrolled through the messages. 43 messages, she whispered, and 15 missed calls. He felt a knot form in his stomach. "Are they all from Tom?" She nodded, her hands shaking slightly as she held the phone. "The first few are apologies. Then they get angry. Then, apologetic again. Then really angry." She looked up at him, fear in her eyes. "He knows I'm not at my apartment. He went there and knocked. My roommate told him I never came home. 44. To my dollars. Does he know you're here?" "I don't think so. We've never really talked about you. I mean, I've mentioned we're friends, but..." She trailed off, looking worried. He got up and made them some breakfast. Nothing fancy, just scrambled eggs and toast. But it was something normal to do, in a very abnormal situation. They ate mostly in silence, both lost in their own thoughts. "I need to go back eventually," Lisa said, pushing her eggs around on her plate. "I have work tomorrow, and all my things are at my place. I can't hide forever." "You're not hiding," he said. "You're taking time to think. Tom won't see it that way. He'll say I'm being dramatic, that I overreacted." She put down her fork. "That's what usually happens. I get upset about something, he gets defensive, and then, somehow, I end up apologizing to him. That doesn't sound healthy." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "No, it's not. But it's so hard to see it when you're in the middle of it. You know? Like, I can look at my friends' relationships and see problems clearly. But my own? I make excuses. I tell myself every couple fights. I convince myself that I'm too sensitive. Wah. 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 Wah." He recognized something in her words. Something from his own past. A few years ago, he'd been in a relationship that had slowly drained him. It hadn't been dramatic or obviously bad. Just small things, constant criticism disguised as concern, feeling like he was always walking on eggshells. It had taken his sister pointing it out for him to finally see it. "I get it," he said quietly. They spent the morning talking, really talking. She told him about the early days with Tom, how sweet he'd been, how he'd made her feel special, how slowly, so slowly she barely noticed, Things had changed. The compliments became criticisms. The interest in her life became interrogations. The protectiveness became possessiveness. Around noon, her phone rang. She looked at the screen, and her whole body tensed. She answered, and he could hear the worry in her mother's voice, even from across the room. Tom had called her parents, telling them Lisa had run off in the middle of the night, and he was worried about her. He'd painted himself as the concerned boyfriend, and now her family was panicking. Lisa tried to explain without explaining too much, reassuring her mother that she was safe, that she just needed some space. But he could see how hard it was for her, how the guilt was eating at her. When she hung up, she looked exhausted. He called my parents. He actually called my parents. She put her head in her hands. Now, they think I'm being irrational. My mom said I should go talk to him, that all couples go through rough patches. Do they know what he said to you? I couldn't tell them everything. Not over the phone. Not with my mom already worried. She looked up at him. This is exactly what he does. He makes me feel like I'm the problem. Just like I'm overreacting. And everyone around us believes him because he's so good at playing the victim. The afternoon stretched on, and the tension grew. Lisa kept checking her phone, jumping at every notification. Around 3 o'clock, there was a knock at his door. They both froze. Don't answer it, Lisa whispered. He looked through the peephole. A tall guy with dark hair stood there, looking impatient. Tom. Somehow, he'd figured out where she was. I know she's in there. Tom called through the door. Lisa, we need to talk. This is ridiculous. Lisa's face had gone completely white. She looked terrified, and something in him shifted. He wasn't going to let this guy intimidate her. Not here. Not now. He opened the door, stepping into the hallway and closing it behind him, so Tom couldn't see inside. She doesn't want to talk right now. Crowsid. Tom looked him up and down, his jaw clenching. And who exactly are you? The guy she ran to in the middle of the night? That's convenient. I'm her friend, and she's safe. That's all you need to know. That's all I need to know? Tom's voice rose. She's my girlfriend. We had a fight, and instead of working it out like adults, she runs to some guy's apartment. Do you know how that looks? Chast? I know how showing up here and trying to force her to talk to you looks. They stood there, tension crackling between them. Tom's hands were clenched into fists, and for a moment, he thought the guy might actually take a swing at him. But then Tom seemed to collect himself, his expression shifting to something almost sad. Just tell her I love her, okay? Tell her I'm sorry, and we can work this out. Whatever she thinks happened, it wasn't that bad. She's just being sensitive. And there it was. The dismissal. The minimizing. He'd heard it before. Seen it before. I'll tell her you came by. What she does with that information is up to her. He went back inside, locking the door behind him. Lisa was sitting on the couch, hugging herself. He found me, she said, stating the obvious. Yeah, but he's gone now. For how long? She looked up at him. He won't give up. He never gives up. Last time I tried to break up with him, he showed up every day for a week, until I agreed to give him another chance. That's when he realized this wasn't just about one bad fight. This was a pattern, a cycle that had been repeating for who knows how long. And Lisa was stuck in it, unable to see a way out. Retry. 3, 4, and 5. Part 3. The rest of the day felt like waiting for something bad to happen. Lisa tried to act normal, but he could see her flinching every time she heard footsteps in the hallway outside. They ordered pizza for dinner, though neither of them had much appetite. The food sat between them on the coffee table, mostly untouched. I can't keep hiding in your apartment, Lisa said as evening approached. This isn't fair to you. You've already done so much. You're not hiding. You're figuring things out. But for how long? A day? A week? I have a life. A job. My own apartment that I pay rent for. She pulled her knees up to her chest again, a position he was starting to recognize as her way of making herself smaller when she felt overwhelmed. I just don't know how to face him. Maybe you don't have to. Not yet, anyway. She looked at him, confusion in her eyes. I mean, you could get your things when he's not there. You could talk to him in a public place, if you decide you want to talk at all. You have options. You don't have to do what he expects you to do. The idea seemed to surprise her, like she hadn't considered that she could control any part of this situation. He has a key to my apartment, she said quietly. He could just show up any time. Then maybe you change the locks. Or stay somewhere else for a while. Where? I can't afford a hotel, and I don't want to explain all of this to my roommate. She likes Tom. Everyone likes Tom. Her voice was bitter. That's the problem. He's charming. He's nice to everyone else. No one would believe what he's really like. He'd seen this before, heard stories like this. The person who was perfectly pleasant in public, but completely different in private. It was a special kind of awful, because it made the victim doubt their own reality. I believe you, he said simply. She looked at him for a long moment, and he saw her eyes fill with tears. Thank you. You don't know how much I needed to hear that. That night, she asked if she could stay one more night. He agreed without hesitation. They set up the same arrangement. Her in the bedroom, him on the couch. But around midnight, he heard the bedroom door open. Lisa stood in the doorway, looking small in his oversized t-shirt. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I hear him yelling. I keep thinking about all the things he said. Wondering if he was right. Maybe I am selfish. Maybe I do. Only think about myself. That's not true, and you know it. Do I? She walked over and sat on the floor next to the couch, leaning against it. I've been with him for 2 years. 2 years of him telling me I'm too sensitive, too emotional, too demanding. After a while, you start to believe it. They talked for hours in the darkness. She told him things she'd never told anyone. How Tom would go through her phone and then get angry about conversations he'd misinterpreted. How he'd show up at her work unexpectedly to check on her. How he'd gotten angry when she'd spent time with her friends without inviting him. Small things that added up to something suffocating. The worst part is, I loved him, she said. I really did. Or maybe I loved who he was in the beginning. I don't even know anymore. Quote, love shouldn't make you feel small. I know that. Logically, I know that. But my heart is still catching up to what my head already knows. As the night wore on, exhaustion finally overtook them both. She fell asleep there on the floor, and he grabbed a pillow and blanket for her. He watched her sleep for a moment, peaceful in a way she hadn't been while awake, and felt a strange protectiveness wash over him. The next morning brought new complications. Lisa's boss called, wondering why she hadn't shown up for work. She'd completely forgotten she was supposed to have a shift. She called back, making up some excuse about a family emergency, and he could hear the stress in her voice as she lied. I can't keep doing this, she said after hanging up. I can't put my whole life on hold. Because I'm scared to face him. So what do you want to do? She thought about it for a long time. I want to go to my apartment, get some of my things, figure out what my next step is. She looked at him. Would you come with me? I know it's a lot to ask, but I don't think I can do it alone. They went that afternoon, during the time Lisa knew Tom would be at work. Her apartment was only a 10-minute walk away. The whole way there, she kept looking around nervously, like Tom might appear at any moment. Her roommate, Jessica, was home when they arrived. She looked surprised to see Lisa, and even more surprised to see him. Where have you been? Jessica asked. Tom's been calling here constantly. He's really worried about you. I just needed some space, Lisa said, not meeting her roommate's eyes. Space? Lisa, you disappeared in the middle of the night. He said you two had a fight, but this seems like a huge overreaction. Jessica's eyes moved to him. Suspicious. And who's this? A friend. He's just helping me get some things. Jessica's expression made it clear what she thought was happening. Lisa didn't respond. She just went to her room and started packing a bag. He followed, helping her gather clothes, toiletries, important documents. Jessica watched from the doorway. Her disapproval obvious. You're making a mistake, Jessica said. Tom's a good guy. Whatever you think happened, I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. Lisa stopped packing and turned to face her roommate. For the first time since he'd known her, he saw real anger flash across her face. You don't know what you're talking about. Jess, you don't know what happens when no one else is around. Then tell me. Make me understand why you're throwing away a 2-year relationship. But Lisa just shook her head and continued packing. Some things, he realized, couldn't be explained to someone who didn't want to understand. They were almost done when Lisa's phone rang. Tom. She stared at it, her hand shaking. Don't answer it, he said quietly. But she did. Maybe she felt she had to. Maybe part of her still hoped it would be different this time. Where are you? Tom's voice was loud enough that he could hear it from across the room. Jessica just called me. You're at the apartment? With him? I'm just getting some things, Tom. We need to talk. Face to face. Not over the phone. And definitely not with some other guy there. I don't think that's a good idea right now. Of course you don't. You're listening to him instead of me. Your boyfriend of 2 years. Tom's voice shifted, becoming softer, almost pleading. Baby, please. I love you. I'm sorry about the other night. I didn't mean those things. I was just stressed about work, and I took it out on you. It won't happen again. Lisa's face showed her internal struggle. He'd heard these words before, promised they were sincere. And part of her, the part that had loved him, wanted to believe it. I need time, she said finally. Time? How much time? A day? A week? Because I'm not going to wait around forever, while you figure out your feelings with some other guy. And just like that, the mask slipped. The sweet, apologetic tone vanished, replaced with accusation and anger. I have to go, Lisa said, and ended the call. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone. Jessica was still standing in the doorway, looking uncomfortable now, like maybe she'd heard something in Tom's voice that made her reconsider her position. They finished packing quickly and left. On the way back to his apartment, Lisa was quiet. He didn't push her to talk. Sometimes, silence was what people needed. Back at his place, she unpacked her bag slowly, like she was still processing everything. Did you hear him on the phone? She asked finally. Yeah, that's what he does. He apologizes, makes me feel bad for being upset, and then gets angry when I don't immediately forgive him. And I always do forgive him. Every single time. She sat down on the couch heavily. But not this time. I can't do it anymore. That's incredibly brave. She laughed, but it was sad. It doesn't feel brave. It feels terrifying. That evening, they ordered Chinese food and watched movies, trying to create some sense of normalcy. But the tension was still there, underneath everything. Around 9 o'clock, there was a knock at the door. Tom stood there, and this time he looked different. Not angry, but hurt, vulnerable. It was an act, he suspected, but it was a convincing one. Lisa, please. Tom called through the door. Just talk to me. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Lisa looked at him, uncertainty written all over her face. Maybe I should. Maybe, if I just explain properly, he'll understand. You don't owe him an explanation. But maybe this is the only way to end things cleanly. Maybe I need to face him. He could see her wavering, see her falling back into old patterns. The urge to fix things, to make everyone happy, to avoid conflict, even when conflict was necessary. If you want to talk to him, that's your choice. But you don't have to do it now, and you don't have to do it alone. She thought about it for a long moment, then made her decision. Lisa walked to the door, and his heart started pounding. He wasn't sure this was a good idea, but it wasn't his choice to make. She was an adult, and she had to handle this her own way. She opened the door but kept the chain lock on, creating only a small gap. Tom's face appeared in that gap, and he looked terrible. His eyes were red, his hair messy, like he hadn't slept in days. "Thank God," Tom said, his voice breaking. "I've been so worried. Lisa, please, can we just talk? Really talk?" "We're talking now," Lisa said, her voice surprisingly steady. "Not like this. Not through a door. This is crazy." Tom's eyes shifted past her, landing on him standing a few feet back. "And not with him here. This is between us. He's my friend, and he's staying." Tom's jaw clenched, and for a moment, the hurt expression flickered into something harder. But he controlled it, forcing his face back into that pleading look. "Fine. Whatever. I just need you to understand that I'm sorry. Really. Truly sorry. That night, I was wrong. I shouldn't have said those things. You've said you're sorry before, Tom. I know, but this time is different. I've been thinking about everything, and you're right. I've been too controlling, too jealous. I need to work on that. And I will. I promise I will." He reached through the gap, trying to touch her hand. "Just come home. We can talk about this properly, figure things out together." Lisa pulled her hand back. "I don't think I can do that." "Why?" "Because of him?" Tom's voice rose slightly. "Lisa, be honest. Is something going on between you two? Because from where I'm standing, it looks pretty suspicious. You have a fight with your boyfriend and immediately run to another guy's apartment? Stay there for 2 days? Nothing is going on. He's been helping me because I needed help. Help with what? Running away from your problems? From me?" Tom's mask was slipping again. "We've been together for 2 years. 2 years. Lisa. And you're going to throw that away because we had one bad fight?" "It wasn't one fight, Tom. It's been months of this. Months of feeling like I can't breathe. Like I'm walking on eggshells all the time. That's not fair. I've always supported you. I've always been there for you. I've always been there. There. For you. I've always part of you. There come to see. One see. Axity. You've been suffocating me," Lisa said, and he heard the strength growing in her voice. "You check my phone. You get angry when I spend time with my friends. You made me feel guilty for wanting to take that job. Because I love you. Because I don't want to lose you." Tom's voice echoed in the hallway. "Is that such a crime? Loving someone so much you're afraid of losing them? Love isn't supposed to feel like this." Tom's expression changed then, the pleading replaced with cold anger. "Fine. You want to end things? End them. But don't expect me to make this easy. That apartment? I paid for half the furniture. Those dishes in your kitchen? Mine. I've invested 2 years of my life in you, and you're going to walk away like it meant nothing? Tom, please, don't do this." "Do what? Stand up for myself? You're the one who ran away in the middle of the night. You're the one who's been hiding here with him." Tom's eyes locked onto his. "You must be pretty proud of yourself, stealing someone's girlfriend." "I'm not stealing anyone," he said calmly. "Lisa made her own choice." "Did she? Or did you spend the last 2 days convincing her that I'm some kind of monster? Tom laughed bitterly. I know how this works. You've probably been waiting for an opportunity like this. Waiting for us to have problems so you could swoop in and play the hero. That's not what happened, Lisa said firmly. Then what did happen, Lisa? Explain it to me. Because from my perspective, you ran straight to another man's apartment and have been there ever since. How am I supposed to interpret that? The conversation was spiraling, getting more heated by the moment. Other apartment doors were starting to open slightly, neighbors curious about the commotion. He could see Lisa's face flushing with embarrassment. You need to leave, Tom, he said. You're making a scene. I'm making a scene? This is rich. You break up a relationship and I'm the bad guy for being upset about it. I'm breaking up with you, Tom, Lisa said suddenly, her voice loud and clear. Me. Not him. This is my decision. And I need you to respect that. And leave. Tom stared at her, and something dangerous flashed in his eyes. You're going to regret this. Both of you. You think you're better off without me, Lisa? You're going to realize what a mistake you made. Quote. 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 Tom, just go, she said. And now there were tears streaming down her face. But her voice didn't waver. Tom stood there for another moment, then turned and walked down the hallway. But before he disappeared around the corner, he called back. This isn't over. Lisa closed the door and immediately collapsed against it, sliding down to the floor. She was shaking, crying, but also somehow laughing. I did it. I actually told him it was over. He sat down on the floor next to her. You did. You were amazing. I don't feel amazing. I feel like I'm going to throw up. She wiped her eyes. But I also feel lighter? Is that weird? Like this huge weight just lifted off my chest. That's not weird at all. They sat there on the floor for a while, neither of them saying anything. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the room in orange light. It felt like an ending, but also like a beginning. What do I do now? Lisa asked quietly. Whatever you want. That's the point. She looked at him, really looked at him, and something shifted between them. An awareness that had been building over the past few days, but neither of them had acknowledged. They'd been through something intense together. And that created a bond, whether they wanted it or not. Thank you, she said. For everything. For letting me stay. For coming with me to my apartment. For standing there with me when I talked to Tom. You didn't have to do any of that. I wanted to. Why? She asked it simply, genuinely curious. He thought about his answer. Because everyone deserves someone in their corner. Especially when they're going through something hard. She smiled, a real smile for the first time in days. You're a good person. You know that? I try to be. That night felt different from the previous nights. The immediate crisis was over, and now they had to figure out what came next. Lisa couldn't stay in his apartment forever, but neither of them seemed ready to address that yet. They made dinner together, actually cooking instead of ordering takeout. It felt domestic and comfortable, moving around the small kitchen, bumping into each other occasionally, laughing when he burned the rice and she oversalted the vegetables. It was normal and nice, and he realized he didn't want it to end. After dinner, they ended up on the couch, watching some show neither of them was really paying attention to. Lisa's phone buzzed constantly, messages from Tom, but she'd stopped reading them. She'd made her decision, and she was sticking to it. I should probably find somewhere else to stay, Lisa said during a commercial break. I can't keep camping out in your apartment. You've put your life on hold for me long enough. You're not putting my life on hold. But I am. You've been sleeping on your couch for 3 nights. This is your space. And I've invaded it. He turned to face her. You haven't invaded anything. You needed help. And I was glad I could be there. But yes, eventually, We need to figure out a more permanent solution. I've been thinking about that job offer, Lisa said. The one in the city. The one Tom didn't want me to take. Maybe it's time I put myself first for once. That sounds like a good plan. It's 3 hours away. I'd have to move, start completely over. She looked nervous, but also excited. That's terrifying. Big changes usually are. She leaned back against the couch, her shoulder touching his. It was a small contact, but he felt it acutely. Would you? She started, then stopped. Never mind. That's a stupid question. What? I was going to ask if you'd visit. If I took the job and moved. But that's silly. We barely know each other, really. This whole situation has been so weird and intense. But in normal circumstances, we probably wouldn't even be friends. He thought about that. Were they friends? 3 days ago, they'd been casual acquaintances. Now, they'd been through something significant together. But what happened when the crisis was over? Did they go back to being strangers? I'd visit, he said, if you wanted me to. She looked at him, surprise, and something else in her eyes. Yeah? Yeah. There was a moment, a charged silence between them, where something could have happened. But Lisa pulled back, creating physical distance between them on the couch. I can't, she said quietly. Even though part of me wants to. I just got out of a relationship, and my head is a mess, and it wouldn't be fair. To either of us. I know. But thank you. For being understanding. For being. She searched for the right word. Safe. That word hit him harder than he expected. Safe. In a world that had felt dangerous and unpredictable to her, he'd been safe. There was something beautiful and sad about that. The next few days fell into a strange routine. Lisa stayed in his apartment, but they established better boundaries. She insisted on sleeping on the couch, giving him his bed back. She started looking seriously at that job offer, making phone calls, setting up interviews. He went back to work, his normal life. But coming home to find her there felt oddly natural. She heard from Tom constantly. Messages that swung between apologetic and angry, sometimes within the same conversation. Her friends reached out too, confused about what had happened. Jessica called multiple times, initially angry but eventually coming around when Lisa finally told her everything. I had no idea, Jessica said when Lisa put the phone on speaker one evening. He always seemed so nice. I feel terrible that I didn't see it. You couldn't have known, Lisa assured her. I barely saw it myself, and I was living it. Are you okay? Where are you staying? Lisa glanced at him. With a friend. I'm safe. Tom keeps calling me, asking if I've heard from you. He sounds really messed up, like crying and everything. Part of me feels bad for him. Don't, Lisa said firmly. He's trying to make everyone feel sorry for him. So I look like the bad person. It's manipulation. I believe you, and I'm sorry I didn't before. If you need anything, let me know, okay? After Lisa hung up, she looked relieved. That went better than I expected. I thought everyone would take his side. Maybe people are smarter than you give them credit for. Maybe. The job offer came through officially on day 6. Lisa got the call while he was at work, and when he came home, she was sitting on the couch with papers spread around her, looking overwhelmed but happy. They offered me the position, she said. Better salary than I expected, plus relocation assistance. They want me to start in 3 weeks. That's amazing. Congratulations. 3 weeks, she repeated. That's not a lot of time. I need to find an apartment there, pack up my stuff, tell my current job I'm leaving. She laughed. This is really happening. I'm really doing this. You are. She looked up at him. Will you help me? I know I keep asking for help, but apartment hunting in a new city is scary, and I don't want to do it alone. So the next weekend, they drove to the city together. 3 hours in a car, talking about everything and nothing. He learned more about her that day than he had in all the previous days combined. Her childhood growing up with two sisters, her college years studying graphic design, her dreams of maybe starting her own business someday. They looked at 5 different apartments. The first was too expensive. The second was in a sketchy neighborhood. The third was perfect, but already rented. The fourth was tiny but charming, and Lisa loved it immediately. She signed the lease that day, her hands shaking with excitement and nerves. On the drive back, she was quiet, staring out the window at the passing scenery. "It's really over," she said finally. "My old life. Tom. Everything familiar. In 3 weeks, I'll be starting completely fresh." Scared? Terrified, but also excited. Is it possible to be both at the same time? I think that's exactly what big life changes are supposed to feel like. When they got back to his apartment, there was an envelope taped to his door. Lisa's name was written on it in handwriting he didn't recognize, but she clearly did. Her face went pale. "It's from Tom." She opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a letter, several pages long. He could see her eyes moving across the words, her expression changing from fear to sadness to anger and back again. "He says he's sorry," she said, her voice flat. "That he understands now why I left. That he's been going to therapy. That he wants me to know he's working on himself, not to win me back, but because he realizes he needs to change." She flipped to the next page. Then he talks about all our good memories. The first time we met, our first vacation together, when we talked about maybe getting married someday. Her voice cracked. "He's trying to remind me of why I fell in love with him. What do you want to do?" She folded the letter back up and put it in the envelope. "Nothing. I want to do absolutely nothing. Those memories are real. And they were good. But they don't change what happened. They don't erase the bad parts." She looked at him. "Is that cold? To just not respond?" "No. It's healthy. You don't owe him closure. You don't owe him anything." She nodded and put the letter on the kitchen counter. Later that night, he saw her throw it away. The next 2 weeks passed quickly. Lisa started packing up her things from her old apartment, always going when Tom was at work. He helped her, loading boxes into his car, saying goodbye to a life she was leaving behind. Jessica helped too, apologizing repeatedly for not seeing what was happening. Tom tried a few more times to contact her, showing up at her work, sending flowers, leaving messages with mutual friends. But Lisa held firm. She'd made her decision, and she was sticking to it. 3 days before she was supposed to leave, Tom showed up at his apartment one last time. But this time was different. He didn't seem angry or pleading. He just looked tired and defeated. "I'm not here to cause problems," Tom said through the partially open door. "I just wanted to return some of Lisa's things. Books she left at my place, some jewelry, photos." Lisa came to the door, and for the first time since this all started, she looked at Tom without fear. "Thank you," she said simply. Tom handed over a box. "I really am sorry, Lisa, for everything. I know you won't believe me, and I don't expect you to. But I wanted you to know." He glanced at him, then back to Lisa. "I hope you're happy. I really do. Too." Then he left, and this time, it felt final. No threats, no manipulation, just acceptance. "That was unexpected," Lisa said, staring at the box in her hands. "People surprise you sometimes." She opened the box and started looking through the contents. Photos of them together, smiling and happy. A necklace he'd given her for her birthday. A book she'd been reading. Pieces of a relationship that had existed. Both the good and the bad parts. "I'm not going to throw these away," she said. "That relationship was part of my life, and pretending it never happened doesn't help anything. But I'm also not going to let it define me going forward." The night before Lisa left for the city, they ordered pizza one last time and stayed up late talking. The apartment felt different now, like they were both aware this chapter was closing. "I'm going to miss this," Lisa said. "As weird as that sounds, these past few weeks have been some of the hardest of my life. But also, I don't know. Clarifying? Is that the right word? I get it. Sometimes you need to fall apart before you can put yourself back together properly." "Exactly." She looked at him, and there was that awareness again. That thing that had been building between them. "Can I ask you something?" "Eh?" "Of course. Why did you help me? Really? You could have turned me away that first night. Told me it wasn't your problem. But you didn't. Why?" He thought about his answer carefully. "Because I've been where you were. Not exactly the same situation, but feeling trapped. Feeling like you're losing yourself in a relationship. Someone helped me see it then. And I guess I wanted to pay that forward." "Who helped you?" "My sister. She sat me down one day and asked me when I'd last been happy. Really, genuinely happy. And I couldn't remember. That's when I knew something had to change." "Are you happy now?" "Most days, yeah, I am." She smiled. "Good." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, and then Lisa said, "I know we said we'd keep in touch, but I want you to know, I mean it. You're not just someone who helped me through a bad time. You're my friend, a real friend. And I don't want to lose that. You won't, I promise." The next morning, he helped Lisa load her car with the last of her boxes. Her new apartment was waiting, her new job, her new life. She stood by her car, looking nervous and excited and sad all at once. "This is it," she said. "This is it." She hugged him then, tight and genuine. "Thank you. For everything. I literally couldn't have done this without you." "Yes, you could have. You're stronger than you think. Maybe. But I'm glad I didn't have to prove it alone." She pulled back and looked at him. "Visit me. Okay? Once I'm settled. Come see my new place. Let me buy you dinner as a thank you." "I will. I promise." She got in her car and started the engine. He stood in the parking lot, watching as she pulled away, heading toward whatever came next. As her car disappeared around the corner, he felt a strange mix of emotions. Happiness for her, sadness that she was leaving, and something else he couldn't quite name. He went back to his apartment, and it felt empty in a way it hadn't before. Her presence had filled the space for 3 weeks, and now it was just him again. But it wasn't the same as it had been before she'd knocked on his door that night. Something had changed for both of them. His phone buzzed. A text from Lisa. "Made it to the highway. Thanks again for everything. Talk soon?" He smiled and texted back. "Talk soon. Drive safe. 2000. And listened. Life would go back to normal now. He'd go to work, come home to his quiet apartment, fall back into his regular routine. But he'd also been reminded of something important, that sometimes people need help. That being there for someone, even a near stranger, can matter more than you realize. That connections can form in unexpected ways during difficult times. 3 weeks later, he made the drive to the city. Lisa gave him a tour of her new apartment, which she decorated with plants and art and all the things that made it feel like her. They went to dinner at a small restaurant she'd discovered, and she told him about her new job, the friends she was making, how different and good everything felt. "I'm really proud of you," he said over dessert. "I'm proud of me too," she said, smiling. 6 weeks ago, I didn't think I could do this, but here I am. Here you are." They walked around the city after dinner, talking and laughing, and it felt natural and easy. Whatever they were to each other, friend or something else they hadn't defined, it worked. They'd been through something intense together, and that had created a bond that would last. As he drove home that night, he thought about the chain of events that had started with a knock on his door at 2:47 a.m., How one moment of choosing to help someone had led to all of this. Lisa was building a new life. He'd been reminded that he could make a difference in someone's world. And they'd both learned something about strength and healing and the importance of having someone in your corner when everything feels like it's falling apart. Sometimes life puts you in unexpected situations. Sometimes a near stranger becomes exactly who you need. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is knock on a door in the middle of the night and ask for help. The end. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.